Hey everyone, it's Failed back at it with another video, and I have something here that I've been wanting to show you all for a couple weeks now, but it's taken me forever to finish it. So as the title suggests, we're going to be going over the best damage dealers in the game, but it's not going to be your typical video on, hey, here's what I think, and here's the multipliers, and here's why they're good. I will certainly be doing that over the next couple of weeks, but I first wanted to lay the groundwork for all of my thoughts, and that way you can kind of track it yourself if you're interested. But it's just another tool for all of you out there. So what do I mean? Well, as you can see, if we enter each character's stat menu here and their multipliers, you can see they have their stats based on what Ascension they are, and then they have the multipliers here. And then, of course, that figures out what your damage is, and then it's multiplied by crit damage and all that type of stuff. So what I decided to do is make an entire sheet showcasing every single character's damaging abilities and how much damage they would do without critting, just the base damage with their attack based on their Ascension level. So it took me a while, but I'm gonna go ahead and jump over that sheet real quick. And if you do enjoy this type of content and you want to see me go over some of the future damage dealers and why I think some of them are good, let me know by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and let's jump into the sheet. And it is a massive spreadsheet with a lot of numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through it so that you can get some value out of it if you jump onto the spreadsheet. You will find this attached to my spreadsheet in the description down below. It'll be named the Ace Damage Dealer sheet or something like that. And you can just click on it and look at the tab here. If you're curious about what any of your characters could do with their 0 crit rate or with their base attacks rather than their upgraded stats, just to see their potential before you even add any stats onto it. So what do we have here? Well, we have all the characters on the left-hand side. We have legendaries, epics, and elites. I know I'm missing a couple characters, and those will be added soon. And then we have their attack based on their base attack. And then we have attack with their Ascension with plus 15% attack. And then we have it with plus 20% attack. And I didn't add any of the HP or defense multipliers because there's only a few characters that actually have that. And we also don't know some of those multipliers in the game yet because the game hasn't actually given us the information regarding those. And then we have the multipliers for each skill. Whether or not it's actually a single target, multi-target, or AoE is labeled here as well. And then I have it color-coded. So the key is on the far right. And you can see here all the different kind of factors that go in with color coding. There are some that have an enemies alive multiplier. There are skills that give you attack up before you actually hit. And then there are skills that, have enemy mech. All those different multipliers I color coded so you can kind of easily check whether or not which character does what type of damage and what it scales on. And then there's, of course, ignore defense. This is all based on the characters having 0 defense. Obviously, the characters that have ignore defense will get more true to their damage shown on this sheet than the characters without, and that's why I especially highlighted those ones because it's important to note. Now, a couple other things before I jump into some of the cool characters that I wanted to highlight, and that is, first off, I went through and tried to figure out all the different combinations of how you're going to figure out how to use these characters, and the first thing I landed on is we're going to calculate for each different Ascensions, excluding 3, 4, and 5, because those are the more unlikely ones. So I decided to exclude those because it would take several more weeks in order for me to add those. And then, so we have Ascension 0, Ascension 1, Ascension 2 down here, and Ascension 6. So 0 is most often what you're going to have when you have a legendary. Ascension 1 is important because a lot of attack type characters get their plus 15% attack on that first Ascension. And then Ascension 2 is important because many people get their trait upgrade at Ascension 2. And then Ascension 6 is just the maximum potential of a character, so I decided to add that as well. Now, there's a couple other things, and that is when I was going through and calculating the damage, when I calculated a skill, I added the ability to proc an additional attack or some sort of additional damage. So I separated it into minimum and maximum damage because of that. So, for example, if we just take someone like, let's just look here, where is Hydrisia? So Hydrisia is right here. I'm going to put it at the top for you all to see. I'm going to highlight it. Oops. So it's this one right here. That is Hydrisia. So we can go ahead and scroll over. And you can see here, her A1, or her first skill, does 1,300 damage. However, she has a chance to proc an AoE hit on her passive. And so her maximum damage would be that amount of damage right there, which is 2,000 or almost 2,000. And that's this one right here under the A1 max. So any character with that, for example, ever has that bonus attack if she has attack up and all sorts of things like that. All of those are in the minimum versus maximum categories. Another important one would be Ciara, and you can see here, I'll highlight it for you here. This is 2,400 damage on her ultimate minimum, but 6,200 damage maximum because she can get all those Vengeful Spirit stacks and proc her passive off her ultimate as well. So all that's super, super important to determine how much damage each of these characters can do. So keep that in mind. And we have all the characters on here for the most part, and you can see a lot of their damage numbers. And you can see also some of them have plus NA because we don't have those multipliers. So just keep that in mind as you're going through. Now, I also didn't do the elites under Ascension 6. Again, it would take me forever, a bunch more time, and most people will have the Ascension 6 not too far after the beginning of the game, and that's probably when you will even need this sheet or want to use it, because you're not going to be using many damage dealers until much later on in the game, or after at least you beat your first Queen 12 run. So what are some cool characters that I kind of noticed? Well, for one, I just was going through and checking, and some of them, like, for example, Goobag here is actually have a surprising amount of damage. You can see here his ultimate actually deals 3,700 or 3,600 damage. And we have an unknown speed multiplier here. So we don't know actually how much damage Goobag could do without any defense on the enemy characters or anything like that. But it looks to be like quite a bit. Some of the higher ones that I've seen are, for example, Ciara, which we already went over. Abaddon in a skill 3, if they have a lot of debuffs on them, that can do a ton of damage. What's another one? Vance here has a ton of damage as well if the enemy has positive status effects. And Tenua is calculated for a ton of damage here because she's going to get that bonus turn, and then it assumes you're going to go for the first skill because that's going to do the most damage, which is absolutely amazing damage. And then a couple of surprising ones down here. As you see, as you get to the Ascension 6, the characters start to do a ton more damage, like 9k from Ciara's ultimate, including her passive there, which would be insane. And Tenua's at 7k. Now you can see Nathalia here, some of our favorite damage dealers like Nathalia and Zatlux over at Ascension 6 here and Ascension 2. Right here at the top, I'll just go, Nathalia's right at the top here. She's actually at 4,700 damage at her Ascension 2. And that's with assuming you have that 40% damage increase from her passive. And that's on an AoE, which is absolutely insane on an AoE. It's almost half of what Ciara can do on a single target, which is pretty crazy. And then another favorite of ours is Zatlux. And this is what's an interesting one because we have Zatlux here at 2,434 damage with Ascension 2 plus NA because he actually has a enemies dead multiplier or additional multiplier. So we actually don't know how much damage it can do after you've killed a couple of characters with this ultimate. So it's pretty crazy, but it's actually not that much damage. And this is why I tell people, hey, Zatlux is actually terrible if you cannot actually kill people because this is not a lot of damage. But if this kills someone, it goes up in its damage, and it's obviously killing everyone and resetting his cooldowns, which is really, really cool. Another cool one, and this is one of the reasons why I've been building out Melisa on my alt account. If you compare Melisa's damage here, and we're going to scroll over a little bit. So Melisa here, actually, with her Ascension 2 is getting a 45% attack bonus and crit damage bonus. And mind you, this is based on the characters not critting, so it doesn't account for that. But if you compare it to someone like Asrina down here, so you can see Asrina, she's at 2,600 damage in the bottom left there. And that is with her ultimate. Whereas Melisa, right here, I'm going to put Melisa at the top for you. She's doing 3,600 damage with her ultimate, which is almost 1,000 more. Actually, it's a little bit more than 1,000 more than Asrina. And that's not even including the fact that she's going to get an additional 45% crit rate, which is pretty insane. And then not to mention, she's also going to get the second attack, which is going to do the same amount of damage. And Asrina doesn't have a backup ultimate, so she's not going to quite do that much damage. So you can just see here, with this sheet, you can kind of get yourself informed on some of the characters and whether or not they're really, really solid. And in this case, as you see, you can actually clearly see which characters are going to be better in certain circumstances than other ones. Again, you can also compare that to Aurak in this case, since we're comparing Tulpa characters, and he is in the light blue at the top. And he's doing 3k damage, which is about 600 damage less than Melissa, but that's not even including the additional 10% true damage that you get from hitting Tulpa or any character with that ultimate. It actually comes out to about like 10k to 11k damage on Aurak just without critting again. So you can see why Aurak is such a good character in that regard for Tulpa and when you're using those fire damage dealers. So I thought this was a pretty fun project. It took me a couple weeks, and hopefully some of you will get some value out of it, just kind of peering through and checking out all your damaging characters. Now, obviously, this matters significantly less for people like Blackhorn. You know, yeah, it's on there, but I mean, who cares about Blackhorn's whether or not he's doing 800 damage or, you know, 900 damage? It doesn't really matter. Now, there are going to be many more characters in the future, and I will try to add them as they come. If there are anything that you want to see added to this sheet, let me know. And there's one last thing before I wrap up the video. For those of you that stuck around for this long, everyone else is going to have to figure it out where it is. But for anyone that's interested in knowing whether or not you want more attack or more crit damage, this is a very, very simplistic calculator. You're just going to plug in your attack number. Let's just take Mudos right here. He's got 855 attack. You're going to plug in the crit damage. They have a standard 150% crit damage. And then their multiplier, let's just say the A1 right here, 100%. And you'll see the damage that it's dealing. And let's just say you're building out a character and you're like, okay, I can go 4,000 attack with 300% crit damage. Or I can go 5k attack with let's just say 60% crit damage. We'll compare the numbers right here. So that's 12k damage, and then we have 5,000 attack with 70% crit damage. Well, that is 13,500. So that is 1,500 damage more than going with the higher attack and lower crit damage number. So there you have it. That's pretty much the whole sheet. That's a little bit of damage calculator. This one's pretty useful for those of you that are looking to optimize their units, and it's very, very simplistic. So hopefully that will help you all. And if you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, because this one did take me a while to make, so I really would appreciate it. Let me know what you think, and I will see you for the next one.